Africa Educating for Future, and AIDS HIV awareness program. HIV and AIDS is a disease that has been killing many Africans, and this program is aimed at raising AIDS and HIV awareness amongst African youth, and the following footage brings in African scholars from Washington State University who will be talking about HIV and AIDS and how it affects African society in general, and how we could, in a collaborative effort, possibly, mitigate and fight this disease amongst the African youth. Thank you.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk about this important issue, which is affecting most of African people in Africa, which is HIV/AIDS, which is spreading very quickly in Africa. Indeed, the statistics show that Africa is one of the most countries one continent, that we have the spread of HIV is very high, and I think that is because of lack of awareness, lack of education. I think it's very important to raise youth awareness in Africa about the effect of HIV/AIDS on them, because the disease is spread very quickly in Africa, and I think the issue, as I mentioned earlier, is the fact that there is lack of awareness about the impacts or negative impact of HIV, especially when those youth have sexual intercourse without using condoms or appropriate ways that can prevent the spread of this disease. I think the government is one of the most important sources that can help to underpin the awareness among youth towards this topic or this issue. They need to raise awareness by giving seminars and workshops that raise awareness about the negative impact of HIV/AIDS, and also the ways that we can prevent the spread of this disease. One of the things that we have in African continent is local languages, villages, towns. Some people don't have enough education or good education, and also the language of instructions that we need to use. So we need to go to the level of people and teach them and speak to them by using their own languages, using their indigenous knowledge. Try to find the means that can help us to raise the awareness, not only among the youth, but also among people in Africa in general. In small towns, villages, cities, we need to raise awareness to prevent the spread of this disease, and the fact that many or millions are affected by it and millions are dying every, minute in Africa. As we know, people don't have enough tools or means to do that, so the government can play an important role, as I mentioned earlier, by supporting financially, by raising awareness, by going to school, teach the youth about effect or negative effect of HIV, and how we can use the provided knowledge that can help us to avoid the spread of this disease and the killings of people in Africa every minute or every day. Actually, the government can play an important role in that, and also parents, teachers, all of us are in charge of raising awareness of our kids and our generation, new youth in Africa. And one of the most important advice that I would like to give to youth in Africa is to take for granted the advice they get from their governments or from the advice provided by the manuals that's given and explains the ways in which we can avoid the spread of HIV among us. And that can be done by actually encouraging the youth to use condoms when they have sexual intercourse. That would be one of the effective ways in which we can prevent the spread of HIV among youth or among Africans in general. I think by having that taken into practice, we can have the first step towards slowing the spread of HIV to the point that we can stop the spread of HIV, which I think is hard, but by having enough awareness, good education, that would help us in the future to have a healthy, good youth our generation of youth that can help us to raise awareness of other people in Africa. And as I mentioned earlier, we need to focus on the point of teaching or speaking to people by using their language. As you know, in Africa there are many languages and there are many indigenous knowledge. Some people tend to believe using condoms is something inappropriate. We need to teach them using condoms is very important. And even if you have sexual intercourse with someone who you do not know, it's not because he's from your town, he's safe. So it's better to use condoms at any time or every time you had sexual intercourse. And as I said, my main advice would be to raise an awareness among youth and to teach them and to have good seminars. And I would recommend every government to put hands together to try to help to help themselves and stop the spread of this disease, which is killing millions of Africans every year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ahmed, for providing those very nice insights on how governments in Africa could possibly help prevent and fight AIDS, HIV. So having this said, we're calling our next speaker for this particular session, who's Mr. Peter. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nicholas, for inviting me for this wonderful idea that I have on HIV/AIDS in Africa. In Africa, we've had very many negative effects as a result of HIV/AIDS spread in Africa. We've had children who have been orphaned due to the loss of parents, and in that case it has really led to the children becoming street children, and this is a very huge problem to the government in finding a way of taking care of these children. In that case, it has also led to poverty. The people who are infected with HIV/AIDS in Africa mostly do not have the energy to go work. So what does that mean? It means that the workforce has been reduced, and then in that case the economy gets affected due to lack of enough strong labor force. I would also want to tell you about what the West can do in collaboration with the African countries on finding a collaborative method on how to reduce this alarming rate of HIV/AIDS. In my perspective, I do believe that if the Western researchers work hand in hand with the African researchers and then share the knowledge on how to find a solution, especially on the medicine or the vaccine to prevent this alarming rate, that would greatly reduce the heavy impact due to HIV. And on the other hand, I also want to share with you what I think the Western culture has an impact on the African culture. The youth of these days, they are fond of copying the Western culture. For example, when they look at the TVs, they want to go partying, they want to go do what the Western do, dancing and all that kind of stuff of the Western culture. So, long time ago, we in Africa, we used to have full control over our children. But now, because the children have copied the Western culture, it's now becoming very difficult for the parents to control their children because they have that way of living which is not our African way of living. So in that case, I do believe that when the children try to go into this Western culture, they can easily fall victims of the culture, especially when they go dancing and drinking, especially alcohol. We are all aware that once you drink alcohol and you party, you drink a lot, you lose that sense. It loses your judgment, and in that case, children get involved into different activities like sex, which can easily cause HIV/AIDS. So with that, Nicholas, I would like to thank you for having invited me to share with you what I think HIV is all about in Africa and the way we can work together to combat it. Thank you so much, Nicholas. Talking about globalization, and as far as HIV is concerned, the flow of communication, especially, it has impacted our youth today as far as HIV is concerned. The children or the youth of today have been affected a lot due to globalization. What do I mean here? I mean through the mass media, the use of internet, the use of radios, the TVs. Children have been able to access different negative activities. One big example I'll talk about is pornography being shown all over the internet. The children, even who are below certain ages, are getting access to this porno. And when they access this porno, they are trying to get involved in that. And in that case, they get the HIV/AIDS. Secondly, when they go dancing and partying due to what they see on TV, they get involved in different activities like drinking alcohol. In that case, they lose their sense of judgment. So that has greatly led the children into getting this HIV/AIDS. On the other hand, the fact that globalization has been impacted Africa negatively, it also has some positive impact, especially the flow of communication, whereby the children or the people of Africa, the youth, are able to communicate easily. Now they can use the internet to communicate easily. They can watch different demonstrations on how HIV has been fought all over the world. Different dramas on TV, on radios. It's been so easy now to be able to get the information as far as fighting HIV is concerned. In this way, I would like to end here. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for coming, for willing to provide us with your understanding of this pandemonium called AIDS HIV, and we hope in doing so we are contributing to the education of Africans for the future generations to come. And Africa is let's say it's an old continent, but in the same time is an emerging continent that needs manpower, and the youth constitutes the stronger manpower that African can count on. Thank you.